Greetings, folks. This is Victor Haskins, and in this episode of Let's Investigate, I want us to deepen our knowledge about breathing just a little bit more. In our last episode, the first part of our How to Breathe investigation, we talked about how it looks and what it feels like to breathe in and out properly. This time, I want to talk a little bit more about breathing and how we know how things are working and how to make it work for us. And we want to start with how to hold the breath. How do you hold your breath the right way? Here's the wrong way that most people will probably do because we've learned it by example somewhere. This is something called the Valsalva maneuver, and it's not good and you should never do it. Here's what it looks like. If I said, let's have a breath holding competition, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, so notice several things about what I just did. So I breathed in, and then you heard this, okay, and what that sound is my tongue, the back of my tongue, blocking my throat. So imagine that the throat is this open canal, which it is. And when I do the Valsalva maneuver, the tongue goes and blocks it up to stop the air from coming back out from this way. The problem with that is it creates a whole lot of tension. Now, what did I say before? Anything that's happening in your body is going to translate to the outside world. So if you have tension in your body, we're going to feel and hear tension out here, whether that's through your instrument or through your voice. What's the other thing that you noticed when I released the Valsalva maneuver when I spoke? Well, you noticed my voice was really strained, like someone was strangling me. Listen to it again. And this is my voice when I let it go, because I'm trying to unblock all this air pressure that my tongue is blocking. That is not what you want to do. And in fact, it's very dangerous. You should never do it whether you're playing an instrument, because if you're doing it when you play something like the trumpet, where you have a large amount of air pressure that you need to play the instrument, you could actually herniate your neck. You could have an aneurysm, and these things have happened to people, and you don't want it to happen to you, so don't use it for that. Also, if you're going to lift a heavy object, a lot of people will brace themselves and go, and then lift something heavy. Don't do that either, because you'll also, once again, your risk for hernia or other kind of damage to your body. Don't do that. Instead, the proper way to hold your breath is to use the diaphragm. So, let me remind you what the diaphragm does. Our lungs look like these empty bags, and the diaphragm pulls these empty bags open, our lungs open, so that air can enter them. Imagine a bow and arrow, okay? You have the bow, you're holding the bow with your left hand, and you got your right hand on the string, and you pull the string, the bowstring back. That bowstring is your lungs, and when you pull it back, that's your lungs taking in air. Your diaphragm is your thumb and forefinger that are pulling back that bowstring. Your diaphragm is pulling those lungs open. And when you do that, the proper way to hold it is to let your diaphragm do the holding. You're holding it right there with your diaphragm. Similarly, when you're breathing in, it feels like you're still breathing in when you're holding it, if you're doing it right. Your throat is still open, and when you breathe out, your voice or your air, all of it is relaxed because nothing has tightened up to stop the air, because your diaphragm is properly holding your air. So here's what that looks and sounds like. Here, I'm going to breathe in, I'm going to hold it, and then I'm going to say, my name is Victor, and you're going to hear my voice sounds relaxed like it does right now. So listen to this. My name is Victor, right? So what happened was, I basically suspended the animation of my lungs. And that's what you want to do. That's what it should feel like. It almost feels like I'm still breathing in, even though obviously my lungs are full, so no more air can enter. Now, I'm not trying to force air into my lungs. I'm just using the same muscle that opened my lungs to keep my lungs in that position. And when I'm ready to release it, I just release it, and I'm still relaxed, so that relaxation is transmitted from inside my body to outside my body. Let's practice that together. Let's do this in the format of a breathing exercise so you can practice this. So what's going to happen is I'm going to set my metronome to 60 beats per minute, which once again is the same speed as 1 beat per second. So you could use a stopwatch or a clock when you're practicing this on your own. and we're going to breathe in for 4 counts, right, around our hand, like it's the mouthpiece, and then we're going to hold the breath the way I just taught you to do it. And when we finish that hold for 4 counts, we're going to say, my name is, and then say your name. I'm going to say my name is Victor because that's my name. You're going to say something different. You could say my name is Victor, but that might be a little weird. So, check it out. In for 4, hold for 4, the proper way, don't close it off, and then say my name is, insert your name. And you should be relaxed. And if it's not relaxed, just do it again. Obviously, this is a video, so you should rewind it and do it again until you figure out how to do it and be relaxed. Okay, and use a mirror. A mirror can be helpful if you notice that there's tension. You can figure out when is it happening. But it should be pretty straightforward to feel like you're still breathing in during that holding phase, and then be relaxed when you say your name. So here we go. 1, 2, breathe in. My name is Victor. Okay, let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, breathe in. My name is Victor. And I have all that air still relaxed and ready to be employed to do whatever I want to do with it, whether I'm speaking or whether I'm about to play my first note. So that's how you hold your breath. Why would you need to hold your breath? Well, A, for breath control, and like you're helping to train your diaphragm to gain a closer relationship to that muscle, because now you're telling it to do something specific. Also, in certain situations, like most of the time when we're playing, we want to breathe in and immediately breathe out. Okay, we want to use that fresh air. But if you hold the air the way I'm telling you to hold it, which is the correct way, that air stays fresh. It doesn't go stale. It doesn't become tense air. Versus if you hold air with the Valsalva maneuver and go, then the air is always tense and whenever you release it. Versus holding the correct way, say there was a conductor that you're following, and they're about to give you the downbeat. The conductor raises their hands and your instrument's up and you're ready to play the downbeat. But you're not exactly sure exactly when they'll do it. You just know that once they bring their hands up and they're about to give you the downbeat, when they bring their hands down, that's where your note needs to come in. So you need to have the air ready to go. It's like you're pulling that bow back, that bowstring back on your bow and arrow, and right when his hands come down, you release it. Okay? You release it. And the same thing for your air. You're about to play, and you have fresh air that's been held properly so it's relaxed and it's ready to go. Okay? You're suspending your lungs in animation. You want to suspend it in that relaxed state. Something else I want to talk about, now that you learned how to hold your breath the proper way, is air support. What is air support? You might hear this a lot, especially in beginning band or different wind ensembles. Air support comes from having more air in the tank than you need. What do I mean by that? Think of your lungs. Well, they are tanks that hold air, okay? You never want to use 100% of what's in the tank. It's sort of like driving, okay? If you don't drive yet, that's fine. But check it out. When you're driving, you never want to get to zero on gas, right? If you have 5 gallons of gas in your car, you never want to run out of gas, because that means your car will stop and will no longer go, and now you need to get someone to bring you some gas so your car can get to the next gas station. Instead, you always want to have a little bit of gas left so you can get to the next gas station before your car stops going. The same thing with your lungs. If you get down to no air in your lungs, the air is not quality there. That last little bit of air is not quality. And actually, you should never use maybe the last 20 to 25% of the air in your lungs. So if this represents how much air is in your lungs, you should always have this much left in reserve. This is your air support. This is supporting the rest of the air. So that's why we have to make sure we train ourselves to take in full breaths of air so we can have the maximum air for use. Okay? You have 100% air. We don't ever want to use 100% of it, because that last 20% is going to be real shaky, and it's not going to be very useful for playing strong phrases, for ending strong phrases. It's going to sound very weak. Okay? But that air, if we keep it in that reserve, is very useful for keeping this other 80% very strong and pliable, keeping that air very quality. So air support comes from having that last little bit of air in the tank. Now, something you notice when I do breathing exercises and I blow out, you hear that there's a little bit of an extra push at the very end of it when I'm breathing out. Okay, let me show you what I mean. If I do it one time, listen to what I do when I'm breathing out. You can hear the velocity of the air change. Okay, there's a little crescendo at the end. I'll explain what that's about. Here it is. I'm just breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, and then breathe out for 4. Listen. 3, 4. Okay, so there's a little extra push at the end. So once again, I'm managing my air, so I have a constant airstream as I'm blowing out, but because I understand the principle of air support, I'm blowing out the 80% that I would normally use to play whatever phrase I'm about to play, but then I still have that last reserve air. That's what's giving me that last push of a crescendo. Now, I would never actually do that when I'm playing in a performance because, once again, that last bit of air isn't really good to use. But to train myself to keep that reserve, to know that I have to have that in my lungs to support the rest of the air that I'm using, while I'm doing breathing exercises, I make sure to practice having that little push. If I have that little push at the end, that means I kept the right amount of reserve of air as I'm doing my breathing exercises, which is going to translate to being able to have plenty of air to use when I'm playing and plenty of air for the air support. So remember, air support comes from having that last little reserve of air that supports the rest of the air you actually put out into the world. Remember that as you're doing your breathing exercises because and as you're playing, because that's going to help you have a strong, consistent sound every time. Never empty the tank as you're playing. You do want to empty the tank when you do breathing exercises. You want to expel all the air and practice doing that. But when you're playing, you don't use all of the air. Okay? So that's just like a pro tip there that you should take with you. I'm going to end this episode by just doing a couple rounds of the breathing exercise, which will be in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, out for 4 counts, okay? And I want you to do it with me and try to get that little crescendo on your exhale. Here we go. 2, ready, breathe in. Hold. Out. In. Hold. Out. In. Hold. Out. All right. So, I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned some more things about breathing and improving your breathing technique. Once again, I'm making daily content. So guys, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything. Turn on your notifications. If you have comments or questions, leave them down in the comment section below. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you.